Hello, 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 my fellow burnt out besties. Welcome to Sass and Small Talk. I'm your host, Deb Bellino of Sass and Smalls, coming to you from the creative hub of all creative hubs, the glorious artistic space of House of Owl, my home away from home in the core of Victoria, BC, our beautiful city. I'd like to take this opportunity to humbly acknowledge the Esquimalt, Songhees, and Wasanic nations, past and present, on whose traditional territories of the Algonquin-speaking people we learn, we live, and we work. The guests that I've invited to participate in this series offer an abundance of knowledge and insight and want nothing more than to help us, yes, us, get that sass back. I need my sass back. Oh, you too? Well, if you want that chaos to be a thing of the past and you're ready to get back some of that sass, I got you. Hey, I'm Deb, host of Sass and Small Talk, reclaiming the joy of parenthood beyond burnout. As a mom of two smallies, juggling all the things from caregiving for elderly parents as an active member of the sandwich generation, homeschooling, while navigating special needs. With my own neurospicy brain, I'm no stranger to caregiver and parenting burnout. Through this lived experience, I've met some of the most amazing local parents and experts within my own community of Victoria, BC. They'll share real stories of isolation, loss of self, and burnout, and how they found renewed purpose, all while embracing the chaos that is our lives. So, join us here at House of Owl. Take a seat, grab your poison, and let's talk. Darling, I need my sass back. So here we are. Final episode as we wrap up this season, the first season of Sass and Small Talk here on StoryHive. It's only fitting that we bring you a conversation that embodies everything that we've explored: burnout, resilience, and the strength it takes to reclaim that joy and get that sass back once again. Today, we're diving into the unique ways women experience burnout, how it intertwines with intuition, sensory intelligence, and healing, and how understanding these concepts can help us move forward with clarity and intention. Our final guest is someone whose work and wisdom perfectly align with these themes. Joining us today is Scarlet, proudly and humbly residing here in the Algonquin territory of Victoria, BC. Scarlet has been in partnership with her beloved for 24 years, and together they are proud parents of their sweet 11-year-old. She's not only an accomplished registered counselor, performance artist, storyteller, and author. She just happens to be the board president here at House of Owl Studios, the very place that breathed life into this season of Sass and Small Talk. So you can understand why this is a very extremely special treat and special episode for me, our final episode. And it is all about coming full circle. How perfect is that? So let's get to know our wonderful Scarlet. Her latest passion project currently in the works is a book which explores how we can reconnect with our natural instincts and intuition, both of which have been dulled by the fast pace and pressures of modern life and the long-lasting impacts of colonization and systemic structures. I'll let Scarlet introduce the title of this work in progress book, because you are going to love it. It is so wonderful. Using a unique approach called multisensory storytelling, Scarlet combines research, folklore, and personal experiences to show how prioritizing our sensory intelligence can lead to more grounded, secure, and fulfilling lives. I am so intrigued by this concept. It's very new for me, so bear with me. I'm very excited to get to know more about this wonderful concept of healing. Scarlet's healing journey as a lifelong learner has been enriched and shaped by insights from a variety of scholars, feminists, and spiritual leaders, particularly those focused on trauma, mental health, resilience, and the body's sensory intelligence. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Scarlet loves reading stories aloud with different accents and voices. Maybe she'll read a little passage from her book today. We could get a treat. I'll see if I could get it out of her. But for now, I am thrilled to have her here on the pod today to share her wisdom on healing and intuition and building that resilience we need to thrive and get that sass back, my burnt out besties. Let's welcome our very last guest of the season here on Sass Small Talk, Scarlet Jaxen. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, Scarlet Jaxen.
How am I even supposed to say anything? That was
Oh
like,
my God.
wow. Thank
You're
you
amazing.
for
This
that.
speaks for itself. I wanted to,
Thank
you know
you.
what? I wanted to give, I just want to be able to do you justice. So I had to read it all. I didn't want to miss a beat.
Oh my goddess.
Beautiful stuff. You're such a gift. Thank you for being here. I know how busy you must be.
Oh, I'm so privileged. I feel honored to be here
Oh,
with you, and I love what you're doing. I love that you are bringing more awareness
thank
to an issue
you.
that I think is just really it's not discussed enough. So many people are experiencing burnout, and we just don't feel like uh, supported to have that conversation. I think it feels like all of our guilt and our shame comes up about
Yeah.
it. So the fact that you're
Oh,
bringing this in and you're creating space for people to find themselves in what you've shared.
thank you. I'm
Oh, I'm so
surprised
grateful.
it's not out and all over where every corner people talking about burnout because
Yeah.
I'm shocked by it.
Hmm.
And so thank you for saying that because I was a little nervous. Like, is this something that we can talk about? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every corner of my personal life, I found someone who's experienced burnout.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to have you here because I think you're going to help me kind of tie everything together. I'm very excited about that.
I'll sure try.
And also, I find everything that you stand for very fascinating and new and intriguing. And I
Mm.
want to dig. But before we do that, we have to talk about why we have this podcast. And I think the best way to understand your understanding of burnout is to talk about your own personal experience of it,
Yeah.
if you care to share with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want me to? That's wonderful. I have multiple experiences of burnout. So I'm
We can start in order if you want to talk about your
I'm
career,
like,
like professional
just out myself
burnouts.
first of like,
Yeah,
yeah, I really love this topic because I also personally have
you've
struggled
lived
with
it.
it so much. Yeah, and I can say like, in my field, in my industry, I've been trained in social work. And so there was a lot of emphasis actually talking about in my training about making sure that you prepare yourself, that you have good self-care practices to avoid burnout. It was like definitely something that was on my radar. Um, and I think that I think even when I was really new to the field, I have such care and concern about the environment and making sure things feel good.
Mm,
So I think I had a lot of like I was stacked well. I think I was prepared well. However,
mm,
it still found me like I was working with some of the most oppressed people
mm,
in our community, and I just felt day and day and day like I was making these promises.
mm,
I was making promises that I could I was going to be a source of protection and I was going to be a source of support, and oftentimes I would find that actually our involvement would increase the risk for the young people I was working with, or it would make their situation more vulnerable. And it really was like wearing on me
mm.
because I,
The pressure,
I value,
right?
yeah, and I think one of the things I'll boast about is I think I'm really good at building relationships.
I can totally vouch for that.
Thank you.
We just met and we have a full blown relationship already.
You're such a
I can
kind.
see that.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like that some of my superpowers are my talents. And so I was really good at building rapport and having this trusting
Yeah.
alliance with my clients. And that just meant that I was receiving a ton of disclosures. I remember at
Mm,
one point, I was working at Island Health, and my supervisor was like, "Oh, I'm feeling really concerned here because we've never had somebody who's had this many disclosures of suicidal ideation. Like, what are you asking them? What are you doing?"
mm.
And then of course I was feeling ashamed
I
and,
was gonna
and
say,
guilty about like, what
did you
am I doing
take
wrong?
that in with I hate to interrupt, but that's actually really important. That in itself gives you pressure
Oh
to
yeah.
be almost was there a little slight judgment there on how,
It wasn't just some constructive like feedback on how to pull back so you
Mhm.
maintain a distance. It was more like, what's going on? What are you telling these people, or what are you
Mhm.
saying that they're giving you all this disclosure? Like, so that was probably
Yeah.
hard for
It
you.
was so hard, absolutely, and I think that some of what I ran into really early was, like, a lot of what makes me so relational. I'm
Yeah.
very empathic, but I'm also so in tune to, like, people's emotional experiences, and, like, when something is off, I
Yeah.
say that all the time when I'm talking about intuition, when there's something that's kind of off, instead of trying to avoid it or bypassing it or just, like, letting that
Yeah.
go, I would get curious, and I would kinda lean there and linger a little bit.
Yeah.
And that just actually created invitation for the thing that was being concealed, but actually was really relevant to the moment
Mm.
to be explored. And when I could hold that, but with such tenderness and such trust and faith in that
Mhm.
person,
Mhm.
that's what was leading to these disclosures. And I think I heard that as like, I'm doing something wrong. Like
Mm.
I shouldn't be this way. It's not evidence-based enough. Like
Yeah. So
all of
scientific,
that came
right? Yeah.
into 100%. But I think my natural those qualities that I think we've maybe historically or traditionally we've assigned those as like female qualities.
The
th-
nurturing, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was part of what really created the environment for people to be able to share things that were so, and thank
Absolutely.
goddess they did. Like these are young
Yeah.
people, predominantly young people that I was working with,
Yeah.
right? So anyways, those experiences and just feeling the incongruence of like I'm here and I'm making these promises that my involvement is somehow going to create greater protection or greater sense of safety for them,
Right.
and in reality
But
that
they
wasn't
needed
happening.
that. They needed you.
Well, I mean, I'm grateful that I got to show up as
Right.
somebody who had genuine care.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it was so disheartening, and
Yeah.
that was my first where I was just like, I don't want to work for a system
Mm.
that feels like I'm promoting lies. Like the
Mm.
whole system felt corrupt.
Yeah.
And I say that, and I know I sound so jaded, and other people will be like, come on, you've got to change the system from within. And I've been part of that camp for a long
Mm.
for a lot of my career.
Right.
But I really I feel differently now. I'm in a different place where I think differently. I think that we need that change needs to occur internally first. I think we need
Mhm.
to completely shift the way we think about leadership,
Right.
um, so that empowered leaders who are innovative, who are
Right.
more intuitive,
Yep.
are coming in and actually being able to collaborate together instead of just having one person,
One,
which
yes.
is what I felt like a lot in in my work. It was
That's
like I
a
was
lot of
coming in and
pressure.
advocating and a lot of like, discussing these issues
Yeah.
and trying to have, conversation about change
Right.
on a systemic level. And I was just being met more and more with like, I'm naive and
Oh,
like
goodness gracious.
yeah.
No, you are you are a powerful force to be able to even consider wanting to make that change. But you're one person, and that must have been just so heavy on your back, on your heart, and I'm sure you brought it home with you
Oh, totally. Yeah.
every night. I mean, so that's when burnout started to just, or maybe throughout, burnout
Mhm.
just crept its awful, the
That
what's
ugly
the
head.
word? That ugly head, the ugly head of burnout came.
I feel like I I was denying it for a long time. I
Yeah.
kept just being really stressed, and again, I'll just speak from my personal journey. That looked like me getting quite ill. I was struggling with like
Oh, goodness.
my own some physical symptoms
Oh,
of
boy.
anxiety
Mhm.
and just feeling, yeah, really like I had aches and pains, and I had a doctor who thought I had fibromyalgia, and like uh, just a lot of my body trying to say, "I'm not okay
There's
here.
something
This
going on.
stress is becoming overwhelming."
Yeah.
And the feeling of, and honestly, I know it sounds so silly, but it really was at that point, in my first experience of burnout really was, I felt like I had this I had this longing, I had a goal. It's more than a goal. I like wanted to be somebody who actually was promoting justice. Like I
Right.
wanted to be a participant
Yeah.
in people's lives
Mhm.
to create, you know, a safer
Change
and
and
also
say,
a
yeah.
more equitable and empowering experience. And I just felt like I
Mm.
wasn't doing that, and instead I was just drowning in the heartbreak
Yeah.
and the like the injustice. It wasn't okay, and it needed to be like something needed to be done. And that feeling was what was getting me to eventually be like, I want to say giving up, but it was just like, I can't do it. I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, I'm happy though that you were able to say, this is my boundary. I need to stop for the sake of my health.
Hmm.
Even though your brain probably had these plans that I'm not walking away until change takes place.
Yep.
But you realize you honed into your physical health and your spiritual health to be able to say, okay, I think I'm done here. I've done
Hmm.
all I can. And you made a shift.
I made a shift.
Beautiful.
Yeah, totally.
After burnout.
Yep.
During burnout,
No,
did you bring the
I
burnout
think
with you?
my body was like, "No, there's no way. Like, you're gonna need to take a break." So I
Good.
actually initially, that was my first experience of burnout, was actually just I pulled out of my career and
All
was
right.
like, I went traveling.
Good.
My beloved and I we just like checked out and
Good.
wanted to go and explore different things. And I had that opportunity to do that. So we were
Good.
working together to run his business, and I changed gears for a little while. And then I actually went back into my field again,
Okay.
after becoming a mom. And that was kind of, again, my second round of burnout. So
Burnout.
I went in, and this time it wasn't very long before I got into a position of leadership
Okay. In the field, in
in the
the area that you wanted to be in.
Absolutely. So I'm
Okay.
still working with youth and with their families
Okay.
who are particularly high risk, and but I was managing a multidisciplinary team,
Okay.
and I absolutely, like, I loved it. I loved that I felt like
Oh,
I was
good.
being able to come up with some of those solutions that I felt like before I was like
Yeah,
bumping
yeah,
up
yeah.
on
You
with
were
my
there was
supervisors. And
resistance. Yeah.
yeah, and I was looking for like creative ways. I had great mentors that I had been
Beautiful.
working with, and
Yeah.
so I was looking for creative ways to be able to navigate that. And still, like, I ran into
Mm.
my own burnout, and so again,
Pull
I had to
away.
pull away, and this time my pull away was different. It wasn't from a place of, like, I'm not okay. It was from a place of, this is not how I'm here
Okay.
to contribute to change. This situation isn't where I can have the impact that I wanna have. So the burnout was like, yes, I'm turning my wheels here.
Hmm.
This is exhausting me. I'm feeling depleted. I'm feeling like I'm not making the momentum that I wanna make,
Okay.
and it inspired me to make a change.
Another
And so that
shift.
was different. It was like that second, or that, I guess, third time of burnout was more like, how can I take another angle?" It was more adaptive.
Well, it was a journey. You know, it's, I mean,
Yeah, you're
it
like,
was a
"Wow."
journey. If you think about it, like you have to go through these different steps to get to where you want to get to. I actually think it's wonderful that you had experience in so many kind of different areas where you're like, I don't like how this is going to work. And then it'll almost ease the burnout for the second time around, right?
Mhm,
So at this point, you're like, okay, I know what I want. I know how it looks, and
mhm,
this is not my vision. I'm
mhm,
moving on to that. So you made another career shift, or did
mhm.
you walk away from that field altogether at that time?
Yeah, so I stopped working in the system
Okay,
and decided to work, on my own. And so
beautiful.
I was working it as a coach, and now I'm as a registered counselor.
Nice.
And honestly, that move, that shift for me was out of the recognition that I was putting there was still so much pressure on these young people
Mm-hmm.
to develop skills
Yeah.
and to build resiliency. And I was
Yeah.
just like, you know what, we're coming in too late. Like, where the change has to happen is we need caregivers who are well resourced and who are able to take care
Yes.
of these kiddos and provide them the safety that they need and
That's
the
the
protective factors
start.
that they need, right? So
Yes.
I saw that, and I was like, wow. And more and more it was going along with my, running parallel to that experience was also my own experience of becoming, I was a mother.
Yes.
I was, I definitely experienced a very difficult introduction to motherhood.
Okay.
And so I was realizing I was being forced to um to to learn or to trust
Okay.
my instincts and my intuition in ways that I had never done before. And so that journey of my own personal experience of that, alongside this recognition of like, wait a second, what's missing here is, I think caregivers really need to be trusting their instincts and intuition
Yes.
a lot more. And we need to be developing those systems internally, so that they can parent in ways that actually help their children navigate risk
Right.
and reach life sustaining opportunities.
I love that.
And the gap there where I was just like, oh my gosh, we put so much emphasis.
On fixing the child, fixing yeah,
Totally.
the
And on, and
troubled,
even
yes.
just like with, thinking of us as mamas, right? There's so
Yes.
much of our emphasis is like, you need to learn independence. You need to learn this
Mm,
skill. You need to figure
yeah,
out how to make sure that you're packing your own lunch and all of these things. And those are true. Those things are true.
right.
But also what we know is our kids need to know how to regulate their nervous system.
And how do we do that?
Yeah. And how can we expect our kids to know how to do that if their parents don't know how to do that?
100%.
So I really wanted to work, especially with mothers, because honestly, still women represent, I think there's huge changes that are being made, but I think still women carry the bulk of caregiving responsibilities.
Mental load.
hmm
Yeah.
So the thought of being able to help women learn how to trust their instincts and their intuition as a way to make those really difficult decisions as a parent and
Yes.
support their children to learn how to trust their instincts and their intuition so that they can feel higher levels of safety and
Hmm.
more satisfaction in their life, and recognizing that that was the nuance that was different. It wasn't about making sure that kids had, like, those things are important,
Of
having
course.
resiliency and making sure that people are being exposed to safe ways of exploring risk. 100%, those are important things.
Sure.
But for me, what was vitally different was, oh my goddess, how can we help people come back into their own bodies and trust that their body knows what's right for them, knows what's good, and knows what's dangerous? And I just, yeah, I saw that there was a huge gap there. So that's where I've focused my research. It's where I've focused
I love that.
my
How
heart.
did I not know you when I first became a mom?
How did
I'm
I not know
telling you,
you?
because that is so you would say, safe to say,
hmm
that parenting, your own parenting journey,
hmm
was the root of you understanding the need to go right to the caregiver and
hmm
say, this is where the support needs to happen as a foundation
Yeah.
to support these families, right? To
Yeah.
support these children. And then, I mean, simultaneously, you're helping that woman with healing with
Yeah.
past traumas and all the other things that's affecting her journey as a parent.
hmm
That's beautiful.
I love it. I
Oh,
love it
you're,
so much. I feel like I can really make the impact that I want to make.
oh, absolutely. So
hmm
you are, okay, so this is your career unfolding.
hmm
Let's go back to your parenting
Yeah.
experience of burnout.
Yeah.
If that's something
Of
that you'd
course.
be able to share with us, because it's
Yeah.
tough. You're an expert. You're our expert in the show. It's the season. We got our expert. I was waiting for my expert. Here she is. But you are also a
hmm
mama.
I am a mama. Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle with the adjustment
Mm-hmm.
to parenting.
Mm-hmm.
I had an arrogance, honestly. I'll out myself.
Okay.
I really thought before I became a mama, I really felt like I got this in the bag.
Mm.
Like
Don't we all? Aren't we the
I
best
have
parents where we're not parents?
yes,
Like,
yes
I
to
would do
that.
this, this,
Yes.
this, and this, and we're going to feed them these foods and
100%. And I had a
out the
real
window.
like I was so controlling. I remember being like, I no, this I've trained for this. Like
Oh,
I know all about attachment parenting. I'm
of
gonna be
course.
building the most secure bond and I it's gonna be, absolutely easy for me because I've also raised my seven. I have two siblings and they're
Yeah.
7 years younger than me and 10 years younger than me. So I'm like, this is not new to me.
All right.
This isn't novel. Yeah. And then I had my kiddo and it was just like,
Different story.
honestly, Deb, it was so hard for me.
Oh,
I didn't realize that my it's almost like I want to say it's almost like my mind knew that my whole world was going to change when I became a mom
yeah.
and that my focus would be on preserving his life, really. Like at the
Right, right.
beginning, right? What else are
Save
you
the
trying to
child.
do?
Yeah,
Other than
keep
like I
them
got to keep
alive.
them alive.
Yeah,
And I knew it was going to be a 24-hour gig. I got all of that.
yeah.
I understood that. But it's like my psyche or something, the essence inside of me was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, where are we? Where am I? The loss of self that I felt from being
Oh,
I will totally say how I dealt with becoming a mother was to become even more hypervigilant.
okay.
And my own experiences of trauma,
Hmm.
I think it's just were reenacted. So what I had done as a young person to navigate that pain, I ended up doing the same thing
As an
as a
adult.
as an adult, as a new mom. So I
Interesting.
was just like living in hypervigilance, calculating danger
Mm,
all the time,
mm,
constantly trying to consider my kid's risk or my kid's need before, like, be preemptive to the
Mm-hmm.
cry.
Of course.
And he was crying all the time.
Time. Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it was like I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating well. I was trying though. This is the other part of like like, I knew this. I knew what I needed to do. I knew that I needed to make sure I was getting to yoga and I needed to be doing breath work and I needed to be journaling. And I had no shortage on ideas
Knowledge and idea. Yeah.
of how to deal with it. But I felt guilty when I'd go to a yoga class and I'd feel so bad. I still went, but it wasn't
You
enough.
still went. Wow.
I felt like it was those things where it was like,
Yeah.
it was never really, I didn't get to check out the way I needed to check out to
Mm.
be in my own like womanhood.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so I did, I remember so clearly like and when we talk about burnout, like this maybe was more an extreme
You're right.
where I was like, I was in my bathroom, I was bawling my eyes out, just being like, I cannot, like, I should be able to do this. Like, what's
Mm.
wrong with me?
Oh
Why
goodness,
can't
that
I do this? And
shame,
what's
that
wrong?
guilt.
Yeah, it was brutal. I really, really felt like I should have been doing better. I should have been more satisfied. And I
Mm.
wanted to feel fulfilled. I wanted to feel like being there with my kiddo should have completely satisfied me. Like I wanted
Mm.
that to be. And I had this idea that, I shouldn't want to go back to work or that should be something that I have to do, but I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I had this unacknowledged um, expectation of myself
Right. And
to
like you
stay at
said, you
home.
tapped into your younger self, that probably some unhealed, need to be a certain way, that you really have this driving force as a human, and then implementing that as a mom is exhausting.
It was so exhausting. Yeah, I had really high expectations of myself as a
Yeah.
mom. So I was feeling like I was failing
Oh
and
goodness.
also I was extremely yeah, unfulfilled. And so I did like how I got out of that burnout was I had to face feeling so selfish.
Okay, let's talk about this. This is
Mhm.
relatable stuff.
Right?
And I love hearing it from a person who is usually on the other side
Yeah.
of the
Give me
couch.
support.
Right? You know all the answers for that. You do. And you have all the wonderful answers for other mamas coming to you. But then for yourself, this must have been a
Mhm.
switch. You felt selfish,
I felt so
but
selfish.
you felt like that was necessary to feel selfish, to go there, to accept that feeling
I
of,
had to. It
okay,
felt like I was in that place where I'm like, I cannot live like this. Like
okay,
this is I am becoming an extremely toxic version of myself. Like I was
okay.
quick to temper. I was frustrated. I
Mm,
was just like my partner and I honestly, he would offer to help and I'd be like, "What? I don't want to have to tell you how to help." Like
yeah.
I was so impossible. And I didn't want to be like that either. That's not who I am.
Mm,
So it felt like I'm going to look and I'm going to feel like a selfish person,
mm,
but I need to get back to work. And
okay.
I went back into my work and this is when I was in that position of leadership. And honestly, it was just like it was exactly what I needed. I had to have that place
Mm,
where I was putting my energy towards, the collective and really wanting to make changes for humankind. Like that's what my work is for me.
yes.
And I had a place to do that again.
That's
Right.
where that fulfillment came
Yeah.
in another area, so that
When I
you,
was with my kid, I could
such a
actually
beautiful
show up. I
concept.
could be present. I could be there without
Yes.
being, you know, yeah, feeling resentful or feeling, ashamed.
It
I felt
wiped it
so good.
clean in a way, right? You were like, I'm gonna go into this other, and it's ironic because it if you really like, if you line it up, you see it on paper. One has nothing to do with the other, and
Hmm.
yet they're so intertwined.
They're so intertwined.
Your deep satisfaction in self
Yeah.
and giving back
Hmm.
had everything to do with you becoming the best mom you could be. What a
100%.
gorgeous, beautiful concept.
Right. And yet I feel like that's what I've been seeing in my practice, right? Is
Totally.
so many mothers, so many women I think experience that where they do feel like they should be doing things a certain way.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the
and
feelings.
my inquiry is always like, who told us that? Who told us that we
Yeah,
should be doing
who?
it that way?
And is it, it's not being spoken out loud, but there is an undercurrent that we're hearing
Hmm.
either in our own cultures and
Hmm.
past experiences. Who's saying this?
Who's saying it? And how can we make sure that we've deconstructed it and chosen
Yeah.
from from our own values and from our own ideals? I needed to be using my skills and talents.
Yeah.
And that meant me being at work. And honestly, it's funny because at the time I thought that meant I was like lacking in being a
Mm.
nurturer, and that I was like,
No.
but it really wasn't. And I totally, hindsight is 2020, but
Okay.
I just didn't realize that me going and filling myself up
Right.
which for me meant going and using my skills and talents in my work.
Yeah.
um, it allowed me to be way more attentive, way more responsive,
Yeah.
way more nurturing when I was with my kiddo.
I love that so
Hmm.
very much. Now you're saying 2020 hindsight. I got
Yeah.
excited by that because
Yes.
I kind of feel like, wasn't it an immediate
Mm.
understanding that this was happening like in real time? Or is it something that you look back on, you're like, okay, so that was the right move? Or did you go as you're entering the building? Was there a feeling of like a rush of relief? Or was it something that in
Great
itself was a journey?
question. Oh, totally. I mean, if I'm
Huh.
honest, yes. When I was like even just I remember picking up a coffee on the way into work and being like, oh my God,
Oh, this feels
I'm
so
having
good.
this
That,
coffee.
and it's hot, it's warm, it's
And it's
not
like,
cold
yeah.
or warm and
And
microwaved.
like silly things like
Yeah.
I'm turning on my computer and logging in and having checking my emails and being like, oh my God, what's happening? Seeing other adults, right? I mean,
Oh
like,
my
oh my
gosh,
God,
the adult
hi,
conversation.
and being able to talk about things that,
Oh,
are my favorite hot topics.
yes. Putting your face on,
It
putting those
just was,
heels on
yes,
again.
exactly. All of sass, all of those
She
things
got
too.
her sass back.
I like got my sass back
You could
100%.
have started a podcast back then. Come on.
But I really do. I feel like
Yeah.
it gave me, it gave me my energy, my vitality right away.
Oh, so it was immediate.
It did. I felt so, I
Hmm.
mean, it was complicated. I feel like, and
Oh,
maybe
sure.
you can share that too, but I feel like it was complicated because I felt so like viscerally, it felt so good.
Right.
And my mind was still being like,
Mm.
"Mm, look at you. You know that there are moms who would be
Oh gosh, the
so grateful for the
self-doubt.
opportunity to be at home with their kids.
Oh,
What
good
is
grief.
wrong with you?"
No.
Like that monkey was there for a very, very long time.
Oh, that brain, that monkey.
Yeah,
What about your
that
heart,
monkey.
though? What was your heart telling you?
Complicated too. I feel
Okay.
like my heart, like I love this body, these body questions. Yes,
Now
please.
let's talk about your body.
I
Yes.
felt like there was like an opening and a
So that's a tug of
faith and
war,
trust.
right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also because I would miss him
Of
and I would,
course.
and God, our children, are they not just like the most ridiculously, they're like organized to be so cute,
They're
so
so darn cute.
precious.
At the
They,
wrong time sometimes,
right.
absolutely.
So dropping him off at school and just feeling like, oh,
Like,
what am
oh,
I
what am
doing?
I doing?
So I cannot give that story that's just like, oh yeah, I knew right away. It felt good. I did feel really good. I felt so much pleasure
Sure.
from being what felt like selfish, which is very confusing.
That
I
is
felt
so confusing.
extremely good from being selfish. And that's what kind of was the beginning of a huge disruption in my
Okay.
internal beliefs.
Okay.
That
All right.
realization that actually, like, no, wait a second. What does it even mean to be selfish?
It was this even why is that even part of this conversation? Why is selfish a word to describe, loving, being in tune with yourself and your interests and your passions, your creativity and your skills? How is that selfish? Why? I still
It's
question that.
right. It's so, and thinking about the double standard, I didn't do
Right.
that then.
Okay. Yeah.
I would never have been like to my partner who was
Yeah.
working. I would never have been like, why are you, how dare you think about going and doing the
Yeah. Yeah.
work
Yeah.
that you've been doing?
Right. Right. Right.
But there's this
And yet,
implied,
yeah.
like, well, I am the mother, and so
Mm,
I should want to be
mm,
here. And to not is like, I mean, honestly, I think we're talking about some religious things. I
yeah.
think we're talking about definitely like
Culture, all of the
culture,
things. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That is just really driving that sacrifice mentality, like,
The martyrdom,
yeah.
it becomes martyrdom because you're like, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. That's my role. I kind of hate it though. You
Mhm.
know, that the idea of sacrifice, especially when it becomes painful and
Yeah.
the resistance and that cuteness that we're talking about, that's not happening at that moment because
No.
some of our best parenting moments is when it's hard,
Yeah.
right? When we can come out of it. And most of us don't come out of it unscathed. I
No.
know I don't.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy though that it still happens today.
Mhm.
Like I can guarantee, like 2 minutes ago, a mom just walked past this building and said, "I feel so guilty
Oh my gosh. I feel like
that I'm not at
exactly.
home."
Yeah,
Yeah.
people are always talking about affirmations. I'm like, I bet you before you go affirming,
Mm.
figure out what it is you're already saying.
Mm.
Because we all have these things that we're just on repeat that are
Hmm.
constantly, and that was definitely for me, was just I this should be enough. This should why do you need more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even just tapping into the simple things in life, like you said, that coffee made all the difference.
Mhm.
Tapping into, like, signing into your computer, like
Mhm.
it does make you appreciate the little things, right? Because
Mhm.
then you can talk about those other people that have no choice. They have to go into work and they are miserable. And
Mhm.
they're just like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Blah, blah. It's really funny. We're never really deeply satisfied. But talking about that as a mom, I have a story to share. There's
Please.
a woman who's now a really dear friend of mine, but I hadn't known her when I found out when she found out she was pregnant. She didn't even know she was pregnant, and ended up having a baby, ill prepared, single mama, and her community of a few friends came to our mom group and said, "Hey, we've got a new mama on the horizon. Can we provide any like old baby stuff, blah blah blah."
Mhm.
So then I said, "Okay, no problem." And then we were going to meet her a few weeks later, or no, a few days later, and I was like, "She wants to leave her house? Like this is crazy." So we meet this woman. I'm picturing a downtrodden, forlorn, exhausted single mama, young,
Mhm.
just just beside herself. She walks in, and Jackie O
Oh my
appeared.
goodness.
She walks in, just face done, hair done, heels, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what the other mamas felt in the
Mhm.
room. Like, how dare she come in? She's a newborn mama. Like, and why did I give away my last swing to her when she's
Mhm.
like, she's fine? This is what came into my mind was, but how? Like,
Yeah.
how did you get your face on? And how did you
Yeah.
walk out the door and look so flawless? You know what? This single mama
Mhm.
who didn't even know she was pregnant, had no parenting books, had nobody. She had her dad, she had, some friends. She says to me, a
Mm.
relatively seasoned mom of 3 years at the time, she says, "Well, I kind of just have to take care of me in order to take care of him."
Yeah.
Okay, this baby was maybe like 4 weeks old,
Oh
and
my
she
goodness.
schooled me,
Right.
take care of me first
Yeah.
in order
Mhm.
to take care of him.
Yeah.
Jackie O. She
Right?
looked fantastic, and I
Yes.
was like, instead of looking in in resentment or in judgment, I looked in awe
Yeah.
of this
Oh,
practically child herself saying such wise words.
yeah.
And I carry that to my,
Mhm.
like to my everyday now.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, mama, because it's easy to fall into this whole,
Right?
I'm going to just have my messy bun and
Mhm.
not take care of it, not wash my face,
Right?
not leave the house, have mismatched socks leaving the house. This is going to be my new look. It's not satisfying when that is a priority, is to feel good about yourself and be
Mhm.
yourself. So I am now living what you lived,
Mhm.
coming into this gorgeous place of House of Owl. This has been that place where I didn't have the guilt, though. I have to say, I didn't really have the guilt well, no, maybe there were moments where there was like, I should I be like looking this, because I put like reels together, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, this is me, this is my new, am I showcasing something? No, I was expressing this deep happiness.
Beautiful.
And guess what my kids say? You look happier, mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, you're so proud. Let me look at let me look at what you did, some of the pictures you, oh, mom, I like how you did your hair. This, like, there's, because they see
Yeah.
that I'm happier
Yeah.
because I'm taking care of myself. It doesn't mean we're walking
Exactly.
away from, our roles at home. We're
Right?
enhancing it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
It's
concept.
so beautiful, and honestly, what a gift to your kids, because
Yeah.
the alternative would mean you're teaching your kids if you don't get to have any, like, care or concern for yourself. You're teaching them that that's what it means to become a mother,
Yeah.
right? That once they become parents, if they were to choose to make that choice,
Yeah.
it means just like slowly fading into nothing.
Yeah.
Instead of you're showing your kiddos like,
That's the best lesson of
look,
all.
I'm like enlivened. I'm doing something that makes me feel really good. And that's what they want. They want to see adults who are extremely happy, who are feeling fulfilled, and who, that's what's inspiring. Not somebody who's just like, I'm going to sacrifice my whole existence so that you can be
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like,
Cleaning up after
okay.
them and being bitter and then saying, "This is what my life is now." I mean, that
Yeah.
martyrdom. And it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that staying home and choosing that
No,
isn't wonderful and fulfilling if that's what you
100%.
want.
Yeah.
So that too is a choice that's a beautiful one as well.
Yeah, I really think I'm so glad you said that. I
Yeah.
really think it's more just looking at our
Yeah.
internalized beliefs and like what are we saying that we have to do,
Yeah.
and thinking that we're being such good people
Hmm.
by doing it. Is that true? Because I have found every single one of my relationships
Yes.
has improved from me prioritizing my pleasure.
Beautiful. It's
Hmm.
so true. And we never look at it that way. And it's funny how you say the word pleasure. The first thing people think is, the obvious meaning from it.
Hmm.
But that internal pleasure, like to be able to say, I am deeply satisfied.
Yeah,
I'm
I
deeply satisfied,
deeply
whatever that
satisfied.
looks like for you.
Totally. I know. It's such a complicated word. Pleasure for me really means like it's a visceral experience of aliveness.
It really
It's
is.
like and the difference between feelings and emotions, like feelings is like something that's happening in a physical way, your sensory experience, right? And that
Yes.
sensory experience of being alive, like and that doesn't mean that you always feel happy, the emotion,
Yeah, it's
like
not
you're not,
about
it
happiness.
doesn't mean
Exactly.
like fulfilled in the sense of, and that's what I mean about that. My particular interest for work is like enmeshed deeply dissecting problems,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
But I am so deeply satisfied from doing that. Like
Yes.
I'm feeling so alive. My whole body is in an electricity
Mm-hmm.
that's extremely rewarding for me, right?
Yes.
Same thing when I'm like processing something that is like horrendous personally, right? Like, I'm angry about something. I'm experiencing an emotion that's extremely disruptive or, intense of any kind. If it's for truth,
Mm.
if it's to get to the
Yeah.
truth and
Yeah.
I'm wrestling my way through to access greater
That
freedom,
is deeply
that's so deep,
satisfying.
and not just
Yes.
like I'm this makes me think this way. Pleasure to me is it's a sensory experience of being alive.
I'm so excited that you brought up the idea of this sensory experience because
Mhm.
that's what I really want to talk to you about. I did not understand the
Mhm.
meaning of multisensory storytelling,
Yeah.
sensory intelligence. I'm confused by the concept. I did a little digging and I'm
Mhm.
getting it now, but I really want you to tell it from your perspective.
Mhm.
Let's talk about this book.
'Kay.
I think this is where we can, because this is where you're expressing
Mhm.
all these beliefs and the driving force behind your book
Mhm.
is from the importance that you're placing in the idea of the sensory experience,
Mhm.
right? Okay, I'm just making words up. Do I make sense? I don't know
You
what I'm
make
saying.
total
What am I
sense.
saying? I'm just
You're
trying to sound smart.
you are smart,
Mm.
so you're
Anyway,
crushing it.
she told it. She said it. I did. Okay, I'm gonna take that home with me. Okay, so
Oh my
I want to
goodness.
know, how did we get into this
Mhm.
idea? I mean, you've been kind of telling me this whole journey. It makes
Mhm.
all the sense, but getting into, first of all, you know what? Like, can you just tell us the
Yeah.
straight up meaning of multisensory anything?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
this then,
yeah,
sensory
100%.
intelligence, all of
Okay, let
that.
me
Tell
tell
me.
you the first. So,
All right, let's
to
go.
me, sensory intelligence is the way that our body, and again, through all of our senses, and I think this is what's so nuanced about it.
Yes.
All of us, I think, have kind of preferences or tendencies of our senses that are more developed. So, for some people, they're very visual,
Okay.
right? Some people are very kinesthetic, like they're really like tactile, right?
Okay.
Some people are. I have like extreme. I can hear music that nobody else can hear. It's actually there, don't worry. But I mean, like, I have a heightened sense of sound.
Okay.
Some people taste. And so the key for me is like our sensory system, all of our senses worked in this beautiful dance to help us interpret reality. They're designed, our ancestors are like the origins of humanity, how we survived, how we have evolved
Mm.
was by the reliance of our sensory system. Our body would alert us of these signals of a threat or of a life sustaining opportunity. And it would create this visceral experience to be like,
Okay.
I need to. And our kicking in our fight, flight,
I was
freeze,
thinking the fight, flight,
and
freeze.
adapt. So that automatic intelligence that we have that gets kicked into that
High
momentum,
gear, whatever that is. Yeah.
that occurs in tandem with our sensory system, right? And so
So simple.
it's so simple. So sensory intelligence is like, how do we develop and learn how to trust and decode this our sensed experience of reality
Okay.
so that we can discern threat from life-sustaining opportunities.
Oh,
And I think that's a huge part of what is problematic in our modern existence is that
we
we
don't
don't
do
we're
that.
constantly we're going like when we make a decision,
Yeah.
we're approaching the decision going like, okay, I'm going to use my advanced reasoning here. I'm going to make a pro
Logic,
con
logic. Ugh.
list. I'm going to come up.
Yes.
I'm going to actually ask all the experts about what I should do. What's the best diet for me? I'm
Mm.
going to, oh, so and so is saying this. And I'm really like, I'm trying to disrupt that.
Okay.
I think that we all are the experts of our own experiences. We
We
know what we
are.
need.
Yes.
Um,
But we're so influenced by the external forces.
Totally. And we don't prioritize that there's a lot of real reasons why people have cut off from their sensory system.
Oh, there's doubt, self-doubt.
Totally, but it's an intense experience too, right? Like
Okay.
think about so how I love to describe it is I feel like there's this dial of our senses.
Okay.
And most of us we don't want it, sometimes a song will come on and it'll feel like it's heavy metal and maybe you don't like heavy metal music so you're going to turn it down.
Okay.
But when you turn it down, when the next song comes on, that's like the most beautiful classical song.
Okay.
You're missing that too. You're straining to hear it. I think that's what we do.
Oh my goodness.
Generally speaking, I think we all turn down our sensory system because we haven't had a lot of practice
Right.
in regulating through really intense experiences of
So we're
sensed
protecting ourselves
experiences.
from that overwhelm by just
Hmm.
turning down that dial. And it's just we're resisting that
Yes.
natural tendency to
We're
listen to
afraid of
our.
it.
Yeah, yeah. That
And I
makes
think that
sense.
comes out of honestly that we're so flooded with trauma, right? And trauma,
Yeah.
it's actually been I love this. So trauma is like it you're flooded with a visceral experience
Yeah.
of terror. And to cope with that, if that is left unresponded to, unhealed, unrepaired,
Yeah.
what that does is the genius of your body is going to try to adapt. It cannot continue to live in a constant state of terror. And so if no response occurs, no healing is done, then an adaptation will occur. I'm going to call it a maladaptation. I don't think
Okay.
it's a good
It's a mallet.
adaptation.
Yeah.
But
Band-aid
and
effect.
exactly.
Yeah.
And instead, we just try to repress all of our
Mm,
feelings, all of our sensed experience. We try to kind of tune that out.
mm.
And it costs us our whole internal experience, right? But it means that we're feeling a little more equipped to navigate what feels like a very dangerous world.
Mm.
Hmm.
So we're going against the way it was done in
The ancient days.
the ancient days.
The
I was
ancient
like,
days.
what's the right way to say this?
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's where you're talking about the folklore of it all,
Hmm.
like being able to look and see how did they survive, and they did.
Yeah.
They fought lions and tigers, and like we can barely like decide
Hmm.
what socks to wear,
Yeah.
because there's just panic for everything, and then our logic is like our brain is the only. It's not that's an organ. That's not a sense.
Hmm.
We close down our senses
Yeah.
intentionally
Yeah.
to
I'm,
protect ourselves.
yeah. I
So it's
know.
about tapping into that, like kind of going back and turning that dial up again.
And learning how to do that in a way that feels safe, right? Because
Okay.
it can feel very unregulated. It can feel
Impulsive.
extremely, yeah. Well, and those feelings, like we just don't get a lot of support. We don't have a lot of references for how to navigate, like,
No, it's not encouraged. That's
right?
why
Exactly.
in this
And
world.
I think there's fear around it. There's also like gender rules,
Mm.
you know, there's a lot of expectation that in certain places, certain people are allowed to have certain expressions of emotions, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're in a male body, there's a lot more allowance for you to have anger.
Yeah.
If you're in a female body, there's a lot more
It's some
allowance for
different.
you to
Yep.
be
Sad.
sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But heaven forbid you're an angry woman,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
I think it's yeah, I think it's learning where are the spaces that can hold for me to do that experimentation, to come back into my
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
and turn back online.
Yeah. And safely doing it in a way that it doesn't, you know, take so much out of us
Mhm.
and have burnout just from that alone.
Totally.
Okay. So
Okay.
this is incredible. What about a
Multis
person who's not
Oh, yeah.
in tune with their intuition and like they don't even know what it is, like how
Mhm.
what are some practices, what are some like everyday things we can do to
Mhm.
exercise this skill? It's not easy to do.
Oh, I mean, yes and no. Like,
Okay.
I think it's complicated in the sense of where to start, totally,
Yeah.
and it can feel like, oh my god, very overwhelming because we don't talk about it as much.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it starts with the question of like, how could I get into or how could I become a researcher instead of expecting to already know?
Of myself. Okay.
So if we could research and be like, okay, I'm going to start coming into my sensory system is I'm going to start actually exploring what makes me feel good, what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel satisfied, what
Okay.
makes me have a visceral experience of like
It feels
feeling
good.
alive.
Yeah.
Because we don't do that. I think we make assumptions. We look to people that appear to be happy or appear to be
Mm.
successful or
So
appear
toxic, right? Yeah.
right? And we
That's our
and some of
comparison.
us will do it. I'll say for myself, like I got the great relationship. I had the home.
Mm.
I was successful in my career. Had all these things, and I was like,
I'm still not.
this is
Yeah.
not it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like starting to take those little risks
Okay.
to explore
So you
what
have to take a
I
risk
think you have to
to
take.
do
And
this.
I feel like that's part of what is so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
We are very risk adverse, right?
Yeah. This is true.
Unless it's for the sake of innovation,
Mm.
we are very risk averse. And I think taking the risk to feel fully alive is
Mhm.
so worth the risk.
Mhm. And
Having adequate support, making sure that you
that is
have
key as
somebody
well.
that can help you if you do end up feeling like overwhelmed by the experience. I
Yeah.
think that's important.
So it really is an experience, a journey. And
Yeah.
it could take however long it needs to take for this to happen because you it's a practice. It's not something that will just come overnight. But the concept
Yeah.
itself is easy.
Exactly.
It's just a
And
complicated
it's
journey to
not like
start.
it is yeah, and it's not a cognitive exercise.
Okay.
It's like and so it's some I bet if I were to ask you like right now you might be feeling like you've got a big load. You've got lots of responsibilities on your plate. Yeah?
Yeah.
If I understand you just are moving through a move. Yeah?
Mhm.
So if you were to think of like one simple thing that created a visceral experience for you of feeling relaxed and also feeling really, really deeply, deeply happy. What might one of those little things be?
It's not something that has to be present in this current life right
Mm-mm,
now.
just what's something and
Ugh.
I would even urge you to what is one like embodied like something for your sensory, your physical system, your somatic experience. What's something you could do that would make you feel just like oh so so good.
Okay, this is funny how you said because we just talked about how the difficulty of raising children and how
Mhm.
it's not always easy, but that moment. Don't make me cry,
Yeah.
Scarlett.
Oh.
Goodness gracious. That moment that my second child was
Mhm.
placed, my first child too, but my second child after having 9 devastating losses,
Oh my goodness.
one of which I held, I now am holding a living child. That feeling
Mhm.
of we're here
Yeah.
and nothing else mattered, that feeling of satisfaction of,
Mhm.
whoo, I feel you, I hear you. That is a sensory experience.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, wow.
and here's what I that's incredible. So first, thank you for sharing that,
Okay.
and that feeling, it's almost like a high. I know what you're
It is a
talking about, or
high.
it's just it's like the rest of the
It's surreal.
world has it almost like it goes into a fog and you have this extreme presence with you, with
Yeah.
your babe, with the miracle
Mm.
of what's taken place. That feeling that
Ugh.
you had, I believe, and I support people to create that feeling in all directions all the time because I don't think it should be limited to those those significant
Big
moments, those big
monumental. Yeah.
life moments.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
But you have a reference. Your whole body, that
Oh, I
level,
got just
I know you
full
do.
body chills. Like I
You
just got
can feel it.
cold. Just like,
Exactly.
wow.
So this is how you become a researcher.
Okay.
When you go through the world and something gives you even a fraction of that feeling, you pursue it. You go and you're like, okay, and I'll give you like again, it feels a little bit counterintuitive. It feels crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You might end up doing things that you're like, I don't like this. For example, like you might think, oh my God, I feel like I need to go and dance. But you'll watch something or something, you'll just have this visceral feeling
I
like
would
I
do that
just need to do
actually.
and have no like
Experience no
training at
practice.
all, but
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just like, I just need to do. And if you go and you
Mm.
do it, it might be creating that feeling that you had when you were holding your babe and it was
Mm.
that very first one. I think that we've got to learn how to show some sense of trust
So
in
that's
that
that risk. Yeah. Yeah.
feeling
Yeah. Yeah.
when it comes, even when our mind is like, I don't, and that's what I'm saying, why it feels so complicated is that our minds have 1,000 reasons why taking that risk isn't a good idea, why it's
Oh,
absolutely ridiculous.
that resistance.
But I
Yeah.
bet you that there's something even right now that you have a little fantasy about. And fantasy is, again, a loaded word, but something where you're like, and so for me, I remember one of the things was I think my kiddo was, I want to say he was almost 3 or he was 3. And I was like, this was again meeting my selfish story. I had saw that I found something advertising a retreat, but it
Oh,
was for like 4 days or something. And
okay.
I was going to work, but I was home every single day. So the
Okay.
idea of going away was like, whoa. But I had this like whole visceral feeling of like,
This has to happen.
that would be epic.
Yeah.
Like that would be out of this world. And could I even do that? And I talked to my beloved and was like, okay, I know this is absurd. This is totally crazy. It's a financial investment. And like, again, the mind had
The
a
mind, yeah.
gazillion reasons why that wasn't
Logic.
okay. What I can tell you is I went to that retreat. It was
You went.
life-altering retreat.
Changing.
Like
Oh.
I came home being like purring with satisfaction. I was
Oh.
so deeply alive. It felt incredible. Same thing with when I went to, I remember reading this book by, I can't share the title because it's a little bit taboo, but reading this title by Regina Thomas-Hauer and this book by Regina Thomas-Hauer. And I read through it and I was like, if she ever does in-person work, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the year after or something,
Stop it.
I see that she's doing her very last course of mastery. And I was like, but you have to have context.
Wow.
This is what I'm saying of like the research, somebody who researches pleasure and is willing to take risks to pursue it. This is what I'm talking about. So I see this is in New York. First of all, you have to go 3 times,
Oh, good grief.
3 separate trips to New York by myself. And it's like, whatever, $7,000 US.
Oh,
So
Lord.
I was like, my mind is like, there is no freaking way. I don't financially make enough money to accommodate that. Like, how dare I go to
Okay.
my
There's that
family and
shame
say,
again.
I'm going to take this away. We could go on a trip together. And like
Yeah.
my mind had a gazillion reasons why. And also like, what is this going to do? How is this going to support you? You have nothing to do with pleasure. Why are you even exploring pleasure? What does that even mean? My mind had a gazillion reasons why that was
To
a
fight it.
foolish idea.
Yes.
But my body immediately when I saw it was like,
It won. Did it win? Tell
I
me your body
feel
won.
that yes. And I went, and again, like life changing.
Life-changing.
Her and her work
Oh.
have been transformative for me.
Oh, my
So I
goodness.
believe, like down to the littlest, tiniest things, Deb, like you right now, you have something that,
Oh, I can say it right now.
say it. What is it?
Walking into this studio the very first time and sitting on this fluffy chair
Yeah.
and going behind the mic,
Uh-huh.
the feeling, that rush, and it's funny because it's
Yeah.
ironically opposite
Yeah.
of being home with my babe and,
Mhm.
you know, and then taking care of them. And I have a special needs daughter who's homeschooled. I should be with her. And why am I sending her off to the farm for the day so I can come sit here on this fluffy chair? And I sat on the fluffy chair, put
Mhm.
my mouth right here,
Uh-huh.
and I might as well have just given birth right
Yeah.
there. It was the same feeling of I'm proud of myself
Yeah.
for taking this bloody risk. It is a risk. So I can write a book too now.
Yeah. Can. You so can.
Okay, so you're telling me
Yeah.
that in everyday life we are
Mhm.
doing it already. We just have to tap into it. We have to just see it,
And we
picture
gotta
it,
and we have to follow it. I think
follow it.
that I think many people are actually numbed to their visceral experience of
Okay.
reality.
Okay, so there are people who just like
Yeah,
outright avoid it.
totally.
Okay.
And then I also feel like even those of us who do, our dosage, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the amount that we allow ourselves to feel really, really good is so
It's a
low. We're
little. Yeah,
living
yeah,
off
yeah.
of Regina Thomas Howard talks about it being like living off of crumbs, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that is not a satisfactory diet. That is not what we need.
It's not balanced at all.
So I think it's like taking risks. The women I work with, I'm always, especially in my courses, I'm like, okay, how can we like stretch the range of what you allow yourself to feel, but also the range of how much pleasure you get to have, how often you get to experience it, and how can you approach this all not from this serious thing of like, I really need to do this. I need more balance, I need more self-care. And like, okay, that just becomes another pressure point. How about
Mm-hmm.
instead could you approach this as like, I'm gonna research, I'm gonna figure out like what feels like an edge, what feels like a little bit too much. And I'm gonna go right on the line of that
Right at the cusp.
and
Knowing
see
the
what happens.
boundary and actually spelling out the boundary.
Mhm.
So there's that logic right there in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah, totally.
But taking the risk to going as
taking the
far
risk.
as you can.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
Right? And
Ugh.
here's the messed up thing that again doesn't like people I don't know why people aren't saying this. Why is this not plastered everywhere? So the these things are interdependent. So the degree to which we can hold for joy and
Mm,
like excitement and enthusiasm and just like over the top
right.
elatedness.
Yes, that's
That
yeah.
the range that we can go here is also the range for which we can hold
Mm,
our heartbreak,
mhm.
our despair, our agony, our rage.
Yeah, that's
So when
spectrum.
we stretch in either direction,
Mm.
we actually allow for the other to grow as well.
Okay,
So
whoa.
people are always like, oh my God, I've gone through trauma, or I'm going through this really hard time. I'm going through burnout. And I'm like, yeah, great. I mean, not great. But the gift of burnout is that you are going to be able to stretch into so
The
much
desire.
pleasure, so much
Yes.
more sass.
Yeah.
And what's available to you, what you can hold, is so much more if you give yourself permission. Just like you didn't give yourself permission to feel that burnout,
No.
but your experience of life forced that. And now you've held it and you're holding it. And hopefully you get supported and you get well resourced and you
And
develop
yeah,
skills and you don't continue to perpetuate it and you
yeah,
find a way to get out of that burnout.
yeah.
But knowing that just means like I think that can be at least a source of encouragement of like when we go through hell,
Yeah.
when we go through like the things that feel so out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we would never wish that they happen. We don't
No.
want, but when we do, knowing that our capacity to hold for that
As
experience
we're in that experience.
is also contributing to a future where we can hold for so much more joy.
I wish I knew this.
Right?
When
I wish I knew
had-
that.
I wish I had, because it's true, even going back to this example of holding my second child in my arms, I probably wouldn't feel that, like I said, yes, of course, the happiness of having my first child, yeah, wonderful, but I didn't know
Mhm.
what loss was at
Yeah,
that point.
Exactly.
But with my second child, I needed that loss to, not needed, but like I needed to immerse myself in the joy by remembering the pain,
Yeah.
which I didn't have to remember.
It was there.
It was just there. But the joy I felt was
Yeah.
so, I can't even describe it. That's why I
Yeah.
can't describe it.
Yeah.
And even the same with burnout.
Mhm.
My burnout was so, it was so severe this
Yeah.
past February. So like last a few months ago, or like beginning of this year, it's the end of the year now, but it was so It was visceral. I
Mhm.
was, um, I just didn't have the energy anymore. I had the rage, all that stuff. But I also was, I was like a wet cloth. Everywhere
Yeah.
I went, I was just,
Yeah.
and then the difference, the dichotomy of this is one end of the spectrum. And now I
Mhm.
can really immerse in the joy because it's so opposite. It's
Yeah.
so clear the difference. But if I was just living life kind of like
Mhm.
relatively satisfactorily,
Mhm.
just like I'm just coasting through life, this feeling of
Yeah.
sitting behind a micro, it's just, that's such a basic
I know.
understanding of like good and bad.
Yeah.
Like just understanding, and to
Yep.
enjoy the good, we have to experience the bad. So burnout is the bad,
Mhm.
and finding and researching is the good, to
Mhm.
find that spot, that sweet spot.
Oh my god, it's like, yeah, again, we'd never
No,
want burnout for
no, we don't
anybody. Like,
want
we
it,
definitely don't want that. And
but it's there.
when it
Yeah,
happens, like, burnout is a I think it can be such a combination of so many things, but
yeah,
ultimately a lot of the similarities for people is the feeling of like not having any energy left, like
yeah,
all reserves completely emptied.
yeah.
And what a hopelessness that
The
feels,
hopelessness, the
right?
defeat. Yeah,
Because there's still nothing's changed.
yeah,
All those same expectations are still there.
right.
All those same needs are still needing to be fulfilled,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It's
And
universal.
and I don't think that's something we should have to navigate on our own. I think there's a lot of risk when we do try to navigate that on our own.
Right.
And learning how to crawl out from that cave, I think for most people ends up having to face that selfish or some iteration of that story of
That's what you
like,
were talking about.
yeah, and being able to come to terms with like, I'm gonna rot down here.
Mm.
If I want a chance to thrive, I'm gonna have to get out of here. Like I'm gonna have to challenge something that feels extremely true,
Mm.
but is actually based on a lie.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
So you need that. It's almost like a fake it till you make it situation. You have to just understand that this feeling of I have to be selfish really isn't the truth, but you almost need to
Right?
face that. Yeah.
You're like, you're researching. Again, if
Yeah,
it's
you're
researching is
researching. It's not,
curiosity,
yeah, it's
then
curiosity.
it's like, you're just trying to find out, is that true? Like who said?
Who
I mean,
said?
how many times do we do that, Deb, where we're
Mm,
we go into autopilot and that's just what we do.
mm,
Like, I don't who said? Why? Is that true? Is that true for you? And that's what to me, sensory intelligence is so important because it teaches it's the codes for what is good for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could never know. It doesn't matter how much studying I do, it doesn't know how much research I've covered.
Mm,
I can never know what is right and holy and sacred and beautiful and perfect for
for me.
you
Yeah.
to the degree that you already know. Your body is
Mm-hmm.
already there. It
Mm-hmm.
is calibrated to know.
We are our
But
own
how
experts. Yeah.
can we like what do we need to do to get back into that? And that's my body of work is helping people learn how to trust their instincts and their intuition.
And so out comes this book. So you're
Yeah,
still working on this book. I did promise our
editing.
audience that we would be told what the name of this
Oh, cheeky.
working title is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's great. I mean, again, it's definitely cheeky and it's
It's cheeky.
purposefully cheeky.
Okay.
So it's called Intuition is a
You're going to have to get it off the shelves to know what that means. When can we see this come out?
It should be ready for the fall of 2025.
We
So
are
I'm in
holding her
editing.
accountable. Like,
Yeah,
get that book
get
out,
it. I'm so and let me explain if that's okay. So
please.
multisensory storytelling, why I think this is the future of story writing and story sharing
Yes.
is it and again, this is based on an academic research method,
Okay.
which I studied in length with Dr. Kathleen Sitter. She's the Canada Research Chair. She's epic.
Amazing.
Anyways, it is the blending of multiple senses
Okay.
to relay a story. So instead of just having like a book that you open with words or an audio experience, my book is the blending of multiple senses. So I have scent that's embedded. Like, remember those magazines when you were a
No
kid and you'd open up and it'd
way.
be like, here, smell the
Yes.
perfume.
The
There's
perfume.
pages that have scent inside of it that
What?
are going to help you relate to a memory from my perspective, from my
Oh
point of
my
view.
goodness. That's where the personal experience comes in. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. This is
And
incredible.
I've got like textures on the pages. And again, that's for that tactile experience. There's a part where I retell the story of Snow White. And at the end of that, I have this little like envelope, and inside the envelope, you open it up, and there's these dried apple pieces, as like that we're drying that out. We're that poisonous apple and the witch and that whole story. I give it a different frame, a different point of view.
Yes.
But there's those
I
things
am
as
so
like they
excited.
yeah.
My
And then
goodness.
it's like I've got my sound, my own voice that's reading it, and I encourage
Oh,
people to read it along with me so that
their own
they're
voice is integrated
yeah,
into this
both. But
story.
it's a collaborative experience instead of like we do that, right? We're like all on our individual path. But what if we were weaving a little bit more? So multisensory storytelling is so
Oh,
incredible because it is prioritizing inclusivity and accessibility
I love
and making it
that.
more about,
Is it ever?
yeah, the whole experience instead of just
This is like a
part.
children's book in the sense of
Hmm.
like getting to the basics of a lovely book that we share
Hmm.
with their favorite books are usually the ones
Yeah,
where all the senses are
included,
involved.
right? I know, like they get to have little pop out things and stuff like that. I know,
Yeah.
I remember that when my kiddo was
This is
little.
so cool.
Yes, I know. I'm so
Are we
excited.
okay with outing this now? We don't want people to know about this. This is incredible.
You're such a kid.
You gotta
I'm
save
really
some.
excited.
You gotta not
I
tell everything.
I
You
won't
gotta,
tell
yeah,
everything.
save some of that for the purchase because I am gonna be the first in line for this. This is
Thank you.
incredible.
Yeah, I'm really
So
excited.
unique.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited to
What a
share.
regard for like you're putting it into practice like quite literally. This is
Hmm.
a tangible experience to read this book. You go
Yeah,
read this book.
yeah.
Intuition is a beep. See, we won't even have to beep it. We'll just do a sound effect. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I'm so excited. I
I'm
think
excited too.
we could go on forever, I think. And I
Hmm.
feel like I have taken so much of I've been counseled. I feel like I've had a free counseling session
Oh my
from our dear
goddess.
friend here.
You,
You've given us so much insight. I think the word is gobsmacked.
oh my goodness.
Basically, I'm completely in awe. I can't believe that this is a world that I have not tapped into at
Mhm.
all. And yet I have.
You
I
have.
just didn't realize it.
Yeah. And
Oh,
let's
incredible.
let's do some more research. Let's like
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
out like let's keep this conversation going. We can go and
100%.
figure out like do we really love creme brulee? Is that true? We should try it.
Yeah, we
I
should
think
try
we should go
it.
and have some.
Oh my God, I think so. I know some places we can go for that.
Let's do it.
You're right, and I think being able to I think the risk of it too is
Hmm.
is is what's exciting about it too. Like I'm excited. I'm like I want to go home and I want to start researching.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
so
like my
excited.
favorite thing. I'm so grateful. This has been a wonderful
I
conversation.
am
Thank you for having
receiving
me.
everything that you're saying. I hope our viewers, our listeners are really rewind. Send this to your partner. Send this to your friends. It's just basic knowledge that we don't talk about. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It just makes it. I mean, it's not basic knowledge. It's
Oh no,
the
it is.
concept is so simplified if you
Mhm.
allow yourself to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think your project, your passion project. I can feel it in my bones that this was truly your entire being put into this
Yeah.
project, which I love, and I feel like that's another outlet for you where you can say, I found joy in this as well, because
Oh
you
my
are really helping the
goodness.
community by doing that.
Thank
I
you.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
I am
Yeah,
so
it's been an
excited.
absolute I'm in editing, if I'm being totally fit honest with you. That part's a little less fun.
Well, there's some
But
unfun parts to it. Yeah, like even
but
being here, I know like the editing for me, luckily, we hire out for that one. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Josvel. The idea of
yes.
having, well, that's the good and the bad, right? You can
Mhm.
because once that editing's over,
Then
satisfaction
it'll feel
guaranteed.
exactly. I'm so willing to put in the labor for that because it needs
That
to be accurate. It
I
needs to be
want to be
right.
part of this release. Please just tell me
Yes,
when it's
please.
happening and
Oh
I'll
my
be there
goddess.
cutting the ribbon with you.
Oh my
I really
goddess.
would like to see
Thank you,
this
Deb.
come, full circle. I want to see it in my hands, and I'm
Mhm.
very excited for our viewers and our listeners to have it in their hands too. I think this is going to be life changing.
You're wow. Well, that is very
A lot of
generous of
pressure.
you.
We're going to
Thank
make it
you.
accountable to have it done by fall 2025.
Let's go. Definitely, it'll be released by then.
I feel like I've been reborn. This is a rebirth. I am so happy that I met you. What
I'm
a
so
blessing. I have to say, I mean, you've said so much already, but do you have any last thoughts? Like anything you want to part with our listeners One
Hmm.
last thought. Is there anything you can say?
Oh, that's a really beautiful ask. Yeah, I feel like my message really is like, trust yourself
Mm,
more than you trust other people. And if you don't know how to trust yourself yet, learn how.
mm.
Hmm.
And there's something with trust your gut.
Yeah,
That
that's
really is
right.
something. That's your intuition. That's what it
Hmm.
is.
It is. I think our intuition is that feeling when I always, it's like you know something's off, but
That
you don't know what it is. You
yes.
you wouldn't be able, like for example, when somebody's lying,
Mm.
I think we get this feeling that they're lying. I think we
Mhm, mhm,
know,
mhm.
but we don't know what about it is false. We
Okay.
just know that it's not right. And it could even be just something like they're kind of amplifying it
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
they're distorting it a little bit,
Yeah,
exaggerating it.
yeah.
But I think we know, we can feel when something isn't right, when
Right.
something isn't true.
Yeah.
Um, so learning how to take risks, to trust that instead of what makes the
What's
most
the facts?
logic,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the most pragmatic sense.
Yeah, lining up all the pros and cons of why this could be wrong or right, and
Hmm.
am overthinking, but letting go of the overthinking and just trusting that simple
Yeah.
gut
And
reaction.
learning how to feel again. Like,
Yeah.
our little people,
Mm,
they haven't been groomed yet not to feel.
mhm.
And they are modeling for us how to do it all the time.
Isn't that incredible?
Right. So we, again, if you look at learning as not being something that's hierarchical,
Yeah.
um,
Or
we just look to our
age-based. Yeah.
kiddos and they're going to show us how to feel. So, like, they are not holding back when they're upset
They're
from having a
not.
meltdown and falling. You see those. I always want to like go and hug the mama or
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
caregiver holding,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
who's dealing with a toddler who's in the store and they're like on the ground
Yes.
melting because they can't
Yes.
have gummies or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And the mom's just like, "We're okay. You're going to be okay. Come on." But the kiddo, like you hold that boundary. I'm sorry, we
Yeah.
can't do this. They're having a meltdown. They're like, they're not containing it. They're
Mm,
pouring out their feelings. And
mhm.
then like 5 minutes later, they're dancing. They're happy. They're joyful.
'Cause
It's
they
not
let it
something
out,
that
yeah.
they moved through
They
it
move
all the way.
through it. So allowing
So
yourself to move through
watching
it.
our kiddos for how to move through our feelings and creating spaces for ourselves to do that as well.
And the purity in that. What a beautiful
Hmm.
way. And that's really funny that we're closing the season
Yeah.
being able to look at our little, I call them smallies, my little smallies,
Hmm.
as our teachers,
Yeah.
to be to be as in tune with ourselves just the way they are.
Just the way they are.
Purity,
Yeah.
innocence. Oh my gosh, this goes back to the basics.
Back to the
Told you I was
basics.
reborn. I'm a baby today. I'm a baby today. We are pure. We are cleaned
Let's
out. I
go.
love it.
I love that.
Oh, I adore you, Scarlett.
I adore you.
I feel like I was meant to be placed in this position behind this mic in front of you for our last episode.
Mm,
I do have, feelings, this battling of like,
yeah.
am I ready to let go of this season? But there is a new door that could
Hmm.
absolutely open from, it's called next season.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it
so
is.
let's look into that for sure. I just want to thank you. As I close, as I close this chapter, this season,
Hmm.
I do want to thank our multitude of guests who have all shared their insight, the way they have navigated burnout on their own terms, and how they continue to, and how they share their experiences and stories, just like how Scarlett did. I am grateful to every single one of you. I'm going to name them. Go back and watch all their episodes. We've got Natasha and Emily and Jamie and Graham and Maggie, Kay and Sarah. And now we have a beautiful Scarlett, who it's a beautiful way to tie this all up, because we are here in the very place that she also is intertwined with, that being House of Owl Studios. Grateful to all of you who have helped me get my sass back, as we talked about. I am so absolutely humbled by the fact that I was able to host a show where I could just be hands off from a technical standpoint. So I could receive. I could receive. I could sit here and listen and just be present for my guests and for myself. I've come out a better person. So I'm
Oh, I
grateful
love that.
to my guests, to my wonderful people, to House of Owl, and to TELUS StoryHive for giving me this opportunity. I'm not going to cry. No, I'm not. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I am going to do that when the cameras are off, not because I'm ashamed of it, but because we are running out of time. And I could go on forever with those tears. But I wanted to just say thank you to all of you who have taken this first step of healing in burnout by looking at other people's stories, seeing how you can relate to it, seeing how you can have a deeper understanding of burnout. I thank you for listening and, giving me this platform. Thank you for coming on this platform. At this point, we are signing off. And as I always say, as you show up for your loved ones, your special, special loved ones, show up for yourself. You now have that sass officially. So keep on with that sass. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart and my gut. Woo! Thank you for joining us here on Sass and Small Talk. Bye.
Oh my goodness.
I need my sass back.
Signing off. See ya, guys. Bye. Signing off. See ya. Bye.